Concern for children in their need, may this our motto be, to help a little one with love that set his spirit free. If we would follow him who said, "Let children come to me," we too would open our arms in love that children see. By Mary Jane Bruns. Abandoned, abused, neglected. These words should never be associated with children. When they are, a safe haven is needed to provide security and hope. This is what the community in Farmington recognized as a need when children in crisis situations had nowhere to go back in 1968. Children would be found wandering the streets and would have to ride in police cars or stay at the police stations for crimes they had not committed, but rather when crimes were committed against them. Childhaven opens its doors to these abused and neglected children of San Juan County on July 27, 1969. Here are some testimonies from the women who began the movement of lifting children from crisis to hope.
Many young patrolmen or a policeman or public service person would find a youngster either locked in a car or in the back of a pickup or wandering, and they had to have a place for these youngsters. And Dolores mentioned the fact that initially they were taken to one of the missions out on the
Bistai Highway.
On the Bistai Highway.
Jane Turnbull took them in at first. She was the first one that started having children to come. It was a mission. Some community-minded people
Absolutely.
Decided they would get together and organize, and so they did. And they got a board of directors and people that would like to volunteer and help.
The community said, and several of the movers and shakers, that this is unacceptable. Farmington is better than this, and we must do better. Then it eventually we realized we had to have a nice sized building, and Dolores, the heart of our organization, she was hired to do that too, run this building.
They had children up to 18 years old brought. We had all ages, so it was quite an undertaking. So I started volunteering over there in '69, and then it was like one day a week or something, and then it became 2 days a week, and finally I was volunteering more time, and about Childhaven got in my blood.
I would say in the beginning years, Childhaven struggled as any new organization or new business might. I think we started off as a volunteer-run organization and pretty quickly realized that we needed paid staff to be able to be consistent and to be able to handle the number of referrals for children that we're receiving in the shelter.
One time the family came to take a little girl home. Her time was up, and she grabbed onto the door and said, "Please let me stay, please let me stay." And of course there was nothing that Dolores could do with the law but let her go. And that stayed with me for a long time. But there was a great need, and there still is a need, and probably always will be.
Probably one of the challenges too that we have agreed on is that today you may have X number of children, and at midnight the bell may ring, and then you've got 4 or 5 more. And I'm not
exaggerating.
4 and 5. No, I'm not exaggerating.
No.
Could very easily be that many youngsters. And did you have the beds for them? Did you have the food, the bottles, the medical care of whatever that might be? And some of them, there was medical care needed. So I think that was a challenge.
That was a challenge.
Were we going to be able to meet that need in an emergency? I think there was always an emergency.
There was always an emergency, yes.
Yes.
My husband was probably more active than I was, actually. He was on the board at one time. He was good at raising money. Not as good as Betty, but pretty good. And loved Childhaven very, very much.
And a pushover
And
for
a
little children.
Oh, yes.
You betcha.
And a pushover, yeah. So.
But I still had a youngster. He was quite young, and one day he came to me and he said, "Mom," he said, "I think I'll run away, and then they'll put me in Childhaven, and then you'll be sorry."
So Childhaven was created for a reason. There were children who needed an emergency place to have shelter. And as time has gone on, Childhaven has incorporated other programs in order to serve those needs of the community, to help children and families before they have to be removed from their home, and to help them during the time they're removed from the home and after that time. So if Childhaven was going to go away, there would be a huge gap in those services, because Childhaven has really grown to serve many more people in the community through the different programs that have come under the umbrella.
I'd say probably in the 90s, really realized that we had to expand our programming to be able to do a bit more than just having a home for children, but also it was imperative to really do things like working jointly with law enforcement, child protective services, the medical staff. All these frontline first responders were working independently, trying to solve these cases of what happened to some of these children.
May I tell about a Christmas story?
Sure.
And Dolores alluded to the fact that she was there on the property and always letting someone in as late as midnight. One Christmas, we thought we had all bases covered for the stocking gifts and the children a gift for Christmas morning. And all of a sudden, quite a few showed up about probably around between 11:30 and 12 at night. And Dolores, being on duty, called some of us, and Sybil McDaniel was one of them at the time, and she called the manager of one of the stores, Britt's, at Palmer Plaza, got him up out of bed, got him at the store. They opened up. He gave us all kinds of gifts. We got them gift wrapped, and those children had Christmas the next morning. That's the Farmington spirit. Yeah.
Over the last 50 years, Childhaven has served over 6,000 children of ages infant to 18 years old. We estimate that approximately 170,000 nights of care have been provided to children at Childhaven. Hear from one former client who, along with her siblings, found solace at the shelter.
I'm Christiana Wilson. I am 25. My sister and I were in state custody because of neglect from my mom. My mom was an alcoholic and a drug addict. We were in the system probably for 2 years until we were able to get released back home. After we went home, we were introduced to our new little brother, and then we were taken into the system again because of my mom's failure to comply to the rules and not follow what's supposed to be done for statewide custody. And so by that time I was 12, my little brother was 2, and my sister was 13. And that was when we were introduced to Childhaven. And when we came here to Childhaven, it was a scary situation. We didn't know what we were involved in, what we were doing. We didn't have our mom, obviously, but I knew I had to be independent for my sister and my little brother. I was always the one who took care of my little brother. I raised him since he was born. I was able to potty train him. I fed him, I bathed him, and he was pretty much like my child. My sister, on the other hand, she was very silent. She was always depressed. put us through this process of being in state custody, dealing with court hearings, dealing with GALs, which are attorneys and social workers. And ever since then, my mom got her rights terminated from when we were 13, 14, and 3. And they notified us and told us we had to be adopted. And so my little brother was lucky enough to get into adopted home. And he's doing fantastic right now. He's currently 15. He's an all A student. And then you have my sister who was able to get into a foster home and get adopted, which was out of state. Being able to be in a facility like Childhaven, you're able to grow and learn about basic life skills, learning how to do your laundry, learning how to socialize with other kids. Childhaven has helped me grow so much in a way, and learning from all of this has been a great opportunity. I'm sorry. But I'm happy to say that Farmington does have a place like this for kids who are able to grow and to learn that there's not bad people out there, such as like their parents, and know that there's people out there who do care for them, like the staff members and other people like that. I was lucky enough to get into a foster home at the age of 15. And with this foster parent, she was a CASA worker through Amy. And Amy didn't know that my foster mom, Barbara, was going to be a foster parent. She didn't know that she was going to give up her CASA volunteer rights just to become a foster parent. And Barbara was the one who met me in the crisis shelter when I was 15, and she was able to know who I was as a person and a human being, and she got to care for me and understand what I've been through and hear me out. And in her eyes, she saw something that I never got to see, and she wanted to be my foster mom. And I was able to live with her all the way up until I was 18, until I aged out of the system. And she was able to teach me a ton of things that I wasn't able to learn in other facilities, but that's where I am. And she has walked me through my high school years. I was able to graduate at Navajo Prep with a 4.0 and on Dean's List and Honors List. And being able to graduate was something I've never thought I would ever experience in my life, because the damage, the trauma, the neglect that was all there, I didn't think that it would be an opportunity for somebody like me to do something like that, and I did. This was an experience I was able to learn with the alcoholism in our family and the addictions that people have, and I learned to not go under that path and not follow that path and do something with my life. And now I'm able to show these kids an example of somebody growing up in the system and changing their life around. It was really great for me to see something like that happen.
Childhaven provides many needed services to children and interventions to families in San Juan County. In 2018, 895 children participated in one or more of our programs. One significant outcome this year showed 94% of our parents enrolled in our parent education classes showed no further evidence of child maltreatment.
The uniqueness of Childhaven, I would say, is that we are the only shelter in New Mexico that takes children from early newborns all the way up until the time the children turn 18 and become an adult. So the various programs that Childhaven runs include the shelter. Hi, welcome to Childhaven. Come on in our entryway. Come along and follow me here. And these are the staff that help do the intakes with the children. Come on in here to our family room. Really, time in a shelter is often a time that we can do some assessments for the child. The staff here take the children to medical appointments to make sure that they're healthy. So we try to make sure and maintain physical activity for the children throughout the day, throughout the week. So from here, we will come on into our dining area right off the hall. See our lovely mural that was painted on our wall. A lot of them are at school during lunch, but they do eat breakfast all together in here. Our kitchen in here, as you can see, we have all the requirements of just like they have in the schools and restaurants. We get a lot of nice home-baked meals here, so thank you. So we'll come back here towards the different wings. We are often up for any ideas that the various groups of volunteers might have to help make this place as cheery and upbeat as possible while the kids are here. We try to make it as homey as possible. And so this was another example of a triple. This is a younger boy's room, and so we had a community group that came in and kind of did a makeover here, and so it just gives I think a good feel to the space, and I think that in turn helps calm some of the children. Right now we're going to enter into our younger preschool area. We have infants in here all the way to probably 6, 7, depending on their kind of developmental level. All the clothing that we have comes from the community. For Childhaven, I think one of the most important factors is the staff that we hire to care for the children. And actually, one of the factors in our strategic plan for Childhaven that the board of directors came up with along with myself a few years back is just really looking at people and what do we have to do to be able to keep our good people. To any and all of our donors that have given money to Childhaven, I would say that the majority of it does go to hire these staff, to train them, and to make sure that they're staying with Childhaven so that we can be a strong organization for hopefully another 50 years. As I mentioned, some of those children may need longer term stays than what the shelter would provide, and we want to make sure that kids have the opportunity to be placed in a family-like situation. So that's where our foster care programs come into play.
I'm Sam Stewart. I've been foster dad for 18 years now.
Dana Stewart. I'm his wife. We've been treatment foster parents for 18 years. We've had, I think, 68 kids in our home.
68 kids.
So we license and recruit foster families to work with the children, and kids can live there for years, actually. If some of the cases may take several years until the child may be freed up for adoption, or it may take several years for the parent to achieve sobriety or whatever it is in their parenting plan that they're working on.
A treatment foster home is a little bit different than just a regular foster home. We deal with children that have severe behaviors, that have suffered severely. So we're not in this alone. We have a lot of people that are helping us.
A lot of family and strength is what I think we need a lot of.
a lot of patience, understanding.
And you gotta have a lot of faith in what you believe in, you know. I think your biological kids we have too, so then we had to bring them on board too, and they had the support and everything. So
I enjoy watching the kids grow. When they come in, they after a little while, after being nurtured and taken care of, and they start to feel safe, they start to blossom, and that just warms my heart. So we do get to continue with some kids a lifelong relationship.
We have a CASA program, which stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocate Volunteers.
So a CASA volunteer is a trained community volunteer who advocates for the best interests of a child in court. The CASA volunteer visits the child regularly where they are placed, the school they go to, daycare where they may be, so that they learn about where the child's situation is at that time. We're very lucky to have volunteers in the community who have come forward to be CASA volunteers, and we do feel that the CASA program is the community voice.
I've been an advocate for 9 years. The training was pretty intense, and we do yearly training. The process is usually Amy will contact us, say we have a new case if you want to be on the case. We go all the way through until the case is over. So we go to all of the checkups, we can go to, if they have counseling or if they have IEP meetings at school, we check on the children everywhere that we can. I was on a case for 5 years, in one case, from start to finish. And the child aged out of the process. So her end was turning 18 and moving on with her life. I am a volunteer. I am not someone, I do report back to the judge, but it's different than when there's a social worker. And that to me is enough satisfaction. My last case, the family did say, are you sure you're just a volunteer, or you really are getting paid? Why are you here for this child? Just to be an extra voice, or just to be a friend and someone to work with?
If there was not the CASA program, there would not be that community voice as part of the team. So there would be the professionals who do work very hard, but it is nice for even the parents to have that person that is a neutral party to the case that can talk with them and gather their input. I remember one mother who actually relinquished, gave up her parental rights, but she said that she trusted the CASA volunteer to make sure that the children were in a safe home. So when I first started, we were able to advocate for about 35% of the children in foster care in San Juan County. And then in 2018, we were able to advocate for 95% of those children. So there's only been 1 month where we were at 100%, but every month we're trying harder and harder to strive for that goal of advocating for 100% of the children in foster care. So that's why we have the 2 trainings each year. We just completed a training, so we have 10 CASA volunteers that will be swearing in by the judge in the next few weeks, and so we hope to get to that 100%.
We also have our folks that are involved in the investigations of child abuse, and so that involves a forensic interviewer that we train, and they go to a national level training to learn how to ask the right questions, the non-leading questions of the child.
Statistics concerning child abuse are daunting. About 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday, and 60% of child abuse victims never tell anyone. A children's advocacy center is a safe place where abused children can feel secure in telling their story without the need to repeat it during a criminal investigation. At the Childhaven Child Advocacy Center, there are trained staff called forensic interviewers who ask the proper, legally defensible questions that are helpful for the case. The Child Advocacy Center also provides family support, which includes parent education, and therapies to help bring healing to these children and their affected family members.
My name is Amanda, and I am the services coordinator here for Childhaven, here at the Advocacy Building. And we have the playroom, we have the sand room, we have the teen room, and we also have the art room. And it's just a way for kids to interact with the therapist, to work through their trauma, non-verbally. Like one little individual says, this is my safe place, and this is where she does not want her bad people to come. So. The reason why I like working and being here with Childhaven, there's a lot of reasons. Therefore, I like working with families, and especially advocating for families, just giving them that support that, they're not alone, because a lot of parents think, oh, I'm just alone in this situation. But to be here, to advocate for families, to be their support and watching parents succeed, that's what brings joy to our hearts, and seeing the kids smile.
I certainly wish, and I'm sure the public wishes, that there wasn't a need for Childhaven. Even though we may do prevention services and education for how to be a good parent and how to be as nurturing as you can and less punitive parenting practices, there is still always going to be a need for a place like Childhaven, whether that's having safe foster homes that children can immediately move into after maybe a shelter stay. It is important to have services around so that as the children move throughout their life, sometimes things go smoothly and people can recover from past traumas. But every once in a while, there's little bumps in the road, and I think it's important to have an agency like Childhaven that is a solid foundation that's there to help pick up the pieces when things don't go so well.
I think they save a lot of children. They give them something they've never had before, and that is love and care. And I do think they save a lot of children.
That's my fear, that if Childhaven wasn't there, then there would be a lot of children that would be homeless or without food, clothing, things to survive. That's a scary thought.
I don't know what some of those children would do, especially abused and neglected. Some children are left at home while the mothers work, and they get to crying at night, or they open the door and leave.
There are statistics out for the United States that look at the number of children that are sexually abused every year, and they say that 1 in 4 females and 1 in 6 male children have been sexually abused. And so I think when you hear statistics like that, and you think of perhaps your child and their friends and kids sitting around a room, and you just think, wow, how incredibly shocking that figure is, and it just brings it all home to you. And so that's the type of statistic that makes people realize that yes, it is something that occurs in my town. It does occur all over the United States, and I would say especially in New Mexico, San Juan County in particular, We have a very high percentage of kids that have been abused.
Unfortunately, there are always going to be children in need. There's always going to be a crisis of who's making that isn't the point. The crisis can be there, large or small, and children have to have a place for protection. And they're surrounded, unfortunately, with an awful lot of violence. And Childhaven is the haven and the place that they can go and have a safe place. And with, I might add, TLC, Tender Loving Care, there'll always be a need for Childhaven. Whether that's good or bad, it's good because we know it's going to be there.
I love Childhaven. I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
I love Childhaven. I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
I love Childhaven. I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
I love Childhaven.
I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
I love Childhaven.
And I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
I love Childhaven.
I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
I love Childhaven.
And I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
I love Childhaven.
I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
I love Childhaven.
And I believe in lifting children from crisis to hope.
Our community needs Childhaven. Your support of the Childhaven Foundation will secure Childhaven's services for years to come.